With the music, that's the cue. That is the cue, folks. If you're just joining us, please do make sure to pop your chat over to everyone, from host and panelist to everyone. This way folks can see the great comments you might have, you know, things that are going on in the chat, ideas, all of that fun stuff. We want to make sure that you're able to participate in the conversation to the fullest today. And let's dive in with our beginning things here, because of course like I said, we have a lot to cover in a very short period of time today. So of course, today we're talking about loose parts, folks. Like I've mentioned before, very much a topic that we've been wanting to talk about for a little while. I know many of you have said that you've wanted to learn a little bit more about this, that you wanted to dive into it. So I think that thank you so much. A couple of folks are already loving loose parts. For myself in the classroom, it was a piece that started to come in as I was also coming out of it. So it's a piece that even for myself, I'm still learning much more about today. So we're excited to learn a little bit more. As always, if this is your first time joining us today, folks, just so you know, We are not the faces of legal or financial advice, nor would you want me to be any of those pieces at all. I did not go to school for that. So if you are looking at making any huge changes in your centers, just make sure that you are, consulting the right people. So whether that be a legal or a financial advisor, if you're talking to your licensing representative, whoever it may be, just make sure if you are making any really large changes to be consulting the right people, especially if you're not 100% sure about what exactly it is you are doing. So make sure you're doing the good things. Let's start our day out with our land acknowledgement.
Hi Mama acknowledges that our main headquarters is situated in Toronto, Ontario, on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Toronto itself is a word that originates from the Mohawk word Takaranto, meaning the place in the water where the trees are standing. As participants and guests in today's webinar, we are coming together from many different places around the world. We encourage you to learn about and acknowledge the land from which you participate.
And then we're just going to jump in for a quick listen to our diversity and inclusion statement.
Hi Mama is committed to fostering an inclusive and welcoming environment for our employees, customers, and community. Hi Mama welcomes and celebrates individuals of all backgrounds, orientations, and identities. Our Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee aims to ensure we provide a safe environment for everyone to thrive while bringing their authentic selves to work. Our mission is to promote an inclusive workspace for all employees through education, discussion, and celebration of our differences. Embracing these differences while coming together with a common purpose is what makes our team extra special.
Very special team indeed. I get the pleasure of working with our team on a day-to-day basis and know just how much fun they are, as well as the fantastic family we have that we call our Hi Mama family members. So folks, the session's being recorded. So I hope you don't have to leave, but we also understand if you do, life will happen. But in case you do want to look back even as well later on and check out the recording, we will be sending that out as part of the show notes email. We'll also be making it available on our blog show notes page. So please do check that out for if you want a little bit more information. Also as well, any links that we're talking about today, we're going to not only be sending them out to you, but we will have them on the blog show notes page as well. If you need some closed captions, please do hit the CC tab. It's there for you. We're also recording with that on. So if you do need that, utilize that to however you like. Next up, I've mentioned show notes already, but just to recap, certificates for those who are here in our live session today will be going out by early next week. So please keep an eye on your email, your junk spam box. For some reason, they like to pop in there occasionally. Please do send me a quick email if you find that if you've lost something. As well, like I said, show notes, they will be coming out by early next week as well. So just keep your eye on that, linking you out to all the resources, of course, that we be talking about today. So just be patient as we do get everything set up and get it out to you. And last but not least, I hope you're not having any trouble, but in case you are having trouble with Zoom, please do seek support.zoom.us. They know their product the best, folks, and they'll be able to help you out the best. I always have husband IT on hand and my Hi Mama team as well, in case I have any issues, because the techie in me, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So folks, if you've never heard of us, please do take some time to check us out. We'd love to have a conversation with you. So Hi Mama is the #1 childcare app. I know many of you folks who do join us, you're either part of our Hi Mama family. Some of you have been involved with a lot of the content that we have, but we'd love to be having a further conversation with you about how we can help you out in your center, in your classroom, in a variety of different ways. So Kaya just popped a link into the chat. Book some time with us, please. We'd love to be having further conversation about how we can help you level up in your center and be a support team for you on your side of things. So, and speaking of support team, if you have joined our family, you will know very well our support team is absolutely phenomenal, and we can spend all day talking about that. They're an amazing group of people, but they're here to help you. So know that if you do need support, we have our full support team here for you, and tons of amazing pieces on our website. So from our podcast to our blog, to articles, to our activities pages, you name it, there's a ton of things going on that both Kai and I actually have our hands in on a day-to-day basis, and would love for you to be checking those pieces out. Please do take some time to do so. Last but not least, if you've never know this, I always like, this is the fun fact about Hi Mama, but we are a B certified company. And I'm sure a lot of people are going, hey, Rhea, what the heck does that mean? That's okay. It means what we do as a company, we make a positive impact on, in this case, the early education space, as we work with the fantastic people that we do get to work with on a day-to-day basis. So it's a pleasure to be a part of a team that makes such an impact. So speaking of team, if you've never been with us before, I'm Rhea. I am I should say an early childhood educator, as well as the community ambassador here at Hi Mama and your host of Hi Mama Helps. Love having my colleague Kaya here on the chat as always. I think for me, Kaya, fun fact today, I love fall, and I realize that I have like a love for each season. So bits of it, and then I think I get over it eventually, but as we go through them. But I'm excited to go into fall and enjoy a bit of some Halloween time at the end of October and see all the leaves change. But Kaya, my colleague and always here in crime.
Yes, colleague in crime. Well, to counter that, I am not a fan of fall at all. I love summer forever. Yeah, I guess I picked the wrong country to live in Canada, where we experience 4 different seasons. So if anyone, I know we have some folks from Jamaica here. So if you are wanting me to come live in your country, I would love to experience summer year round. Also super exciting. We're running a contest for a Hi Mama swag pack on Instagram. You can actually win one of our fabulous hats. I know at conferences, we're known for these hats, the little propeller hats. So if you want to win one, head over to our latest post on Instagram. I'm going to pop it in the chat there and you could snag one of these. Super exciting.
Thank you, Miss Kaya. Folks, if you need any help, like I've said, Kaya's on the chat. She's here to help us, questions, things like that. So please message her. She'll be able to help you out as well. If you have questions for our special guest, who I'll introduce in a moment, please do send them our way so that this way we can have a little bit of conversation at the end. So without further ado, folks, our special guest for today, I'm so excited to welcome Carla Ward on from Early Learning Foundations. Carla, please do join us here. Maybe before we jump in, because like I've said, we have a lot to cover. What's a fun fact about you?
Hi, everybody. So a fun fact about me is I am actually South African. So I am living in Mississauga, Canada, but born and raised South African. Not that you could tell by my accent. I'm very Canadianized.
Jealous.
But yeah, so that's where I grew up. So that's a fun fact about me.
I love it. So Carla, you've got a lot to tell us today. You've got a lot packed in your session. I'm going to let you dive in, but you're talking about loose parts. So I'm going to let you really get into the nitty gritty of it. I'm excited.
Awesome. So there we go. All right. So welcome to Loose Parts, Inspiring Play in Young Children. I am so excited to be sharing my passion with all of you today. Loose Parts is something that I have been using for going on about 7 years. And I'm super excited to hopefully inspire you to either continue using it in your classroom or to bring it into your classroom. So who am I? I am a play advocate, podcaster, toy maker, tutor, and ECE course creator. I'm an early childhood educator out in Mississauga, Ontario. I am also a certified wonder-based teacher, which basically means I'm certified in play. So today we are going, just kidding. So to kick us off, I want to share a quote with you from one of my absolute favorite people of all time, Miss Sally Hoy of Fairy Dust Teaching. Play is a set of behaviors that is freely chosen, personally directed, and intrinsically motivated. This means that children choose where they want to play, what they want to play, and how they want to play. So today we are going to look at the 5 W's of loose parts, the #1 mistake educators make during play, the general course of events in play, trusting the process, the role of the educator, intentional environment design, storage solutions, and getting the buy-in. So what are loose parts? They are any material that allows for open-ended interpretation and play. Loose parts are materials that can be moved around the classroom and used in a variety of ways. They can be used alone, with another material. They invite conversation. They encourage collaboration and cooperation. They support creativity and innovation. They deepen critical thinking and invoke a sense of wonder. I was getting into loose parts, and somebody who was way ahead of me in the game said to me that a plastic farmhouse can only ever be a plastic farmhouse. And this was a huge aha moment for me, because it made me really conscious of the effort and ideas of what I was putting into my classroom and the types of material that I was putting into my classroom. So if you've ever had to do toy changeover, you know that it can be quite a task, because you're trying to follow the children's interests, but also keep things fresh and interesting. What makes loose parts so great is that the children are going to use loose parts to follow their own interests. So instead of using a plastic farmhouse, I would put blocks out. And sometimes those blocks were a farmhouse, sometimes those blocks were a castle, sometimes they were a house. So really think about your intent behind putting things in your classroom. So I'll be giving tons of examples of loose parts throughout today's webinar, but a few examples are blocks, Allen keys. Believe it or not, that was a surprise. I found that Allen keys were actually used a ton in my classroom. They were used to make roadways, they were used to make passages. It was really fascinating how they would contort the Allen keys to make different designs. Glass pebbles were another really popular one, and tree cookies. So who are loose parts intended for? Everybody. Loose parts can be used with any age. When choosing your loose parts, think about providing opportunities that engage 4 of the 5 senses: touch, smell, sight, and sound. You want to, as best as you can, avoid the sense of taste. Now, consider a variety of textures, colors, scents, and developmentally appropriate materials. So for example, scented Play-Doh, acorns, pine cones to activate those sensory bits, a variety of block sizes, nuts and bolts, paint chips, and tiles, just to name a few more. So where do we use loose parts? Guess what? The answer is everywhere. Loose parts can be used in any area of the classroom. I had this loose part shelf, so this was actually from my classroom, and the children could use the materials anywhere in the classroom. And it's important that loose parts are exactly that, loose parts. So what I mean by that is, if you have loose parts in your art area, avoid having them near glue. The intention is for them to be able to be manipulated over and over again. Now, the 3 most effective areas that I've had success with loose parts in is the Block Center, the Dramatic Center, and the Math Science Center. Like I said, art is also a great area to have loose parts, but you want to be clear on which pieces are for gluing and which pieces are for manipulation. So be intentional. I usually kept them on separate tables or opposite ends of the table. And sure, occasionally they got crisscrossed, but it happened really rarely because it was purposeful in my introduction as to how I brought them in. So in the Dramatic Center, a way to bring loose parts in is consider replacing those pre-designed materials with loose parts. So instead of having plastic fruit, which can only ever be plastic fruit, try pom-poms or rocks. I've seen those loose parts turned into cherry pies, hamburgers, or soup. And like toy changeover, the nice thing about loose parts is if you've ever had to do a Dramatic Center weekly, this is way less work because the children's interests turn the Dramatic Center loose parts into what they're interested in. So where to find loose parts for your program? This is the beautiful thing. Loose parts, like blocks, can be purchased, but most loose parts can be found anywhere. You can go out in nature and look for pine cones, acorns, sticks. You can ask parents, wine corks, bottle caps, buttons, drawer knobs. Actually, a really big one that I got a lot of was leftover IKEA pieces. So if I knew that somebody was moving, I'd be like, hey, can I have the extra bits left after you're done building those shelves? And also out in the community. I am definitely guilty of going to Home Depot with a very large purse and acquiring, let's say, a lot of paint chips. Also going into floor sample companies, maybe not with a big purse, but asking them for floor samples and getting some for them. That has been really popular. I've seen children like to turn them into roads. They've used them for building and stacking. And also check out your local community. Here in Peel, we actually have something called Creative Zone. So it's free. We go in and we can get tons of loose parts to put into our programs. So CDs, materials, nuts and bolts. So definitely check out to see if there's a recycling center in your community that does something like that. So when can you use loose parts? They should be accessible all throughout the day. Now, warning, be careful not to get caught up in trying to structure how the children should use loose parts. It limits the innovation and the purpose of the loose parts. Always think about intent and what your purpose is for putting out the materials. The goal of loose parts should be to promote exploration and innovation, and that should be happening all the time. As an adult, wouldn't you love to explore, create, and innovate all day? I know I would. So why not give children the same opportunity? And now for the most important question. Why use loose parts? Loose parts pave the way for innovative thinking. To set our students up for success, we need to provide opportunities for them to be critical thinkers, creative, have design thinking, know how to collaborate, and have communication skills. Loose parts are how we build these skills. If this pandemic showed me anything, it was that 1, children are incredibly resilient, and 2, people are so innovative, especially when they need to be. People who are able to, and I hate using this word, but I can't think of another one, but people who were able to pivot and think outside the box had some really great success over the last year and a half. We can set children up for the same success by giving them the freedom to become innovative thinkers. Experiment, trial and error in a safe environment so that they can develop confidence in their abilities, but are also able to push their own boundaries and creativity. We can set our students up for present and future success by providing them countless opportunities to innovate, problem solve, and collaborate, all skills that make for successful humans. Now, think about how often we hear adults joke about how children like the boxes their gifts come in more than the gift itself. Really think about this for a second. Children have been telling us for years what they need, but we keep giving them what they want. Children need loose parts. Loose parts allow children the opportunity to make meaning of the natural world around them. Their access to loose parts during play and exploration assists with the following: problem solving, engineering, creativity, concentration, hand-eye coordination, fine motor development, gross motor development, language and vocabulary, mathematical thinking, scientific thinking, literacy, and social emotional development. And I'm sure that's not even close to the end of the list. And all of this is done through manipulation and exploration of loose parts. For example, children improve their math skills by classifying loose parts. They learn one-to-one correspondence when they start to make connections. They learn symmetry. Once loose parts are integrated into play, children will often start to count, categorize, sequence, and even pattern on their own. The experience of play changes the connections of the neurons at the front end of your brain. And without play experiences, those neurons aren't changed. This is by Sergio Pellis, a researcher at the University of Lethbridge in Alberta. Play helps the brain, and loose parts are the ultimate tool. Open-ended, free interpretation, no guidance needed. Children even start to build foundational science skills, such as testing theories, a hypothesis, or a simple why. I wonder what would happen if we made a tower taller than me. I wonder are my 2 absolute favorite words in the English language. Through trial and error, being given the space to experiment and try new things, children learn just how to be competent and capable and believe in their own abilities. What an incredible gift that we can provide a child. So through experiments, which is how amazing things are discovered, children learn about gravity, force, pulleys, gears, inclines, and so much more. If you take a look at this picture, think about all the problem solving and patience that had to occur in order for this design to happen. There was no teacher intervention. I was the teacher in the classroom, and this was made by 2 5-year-olds. Collaboration played a huge role. As well, spatial awareness and understanding sizes really had to come into play here. If children are not given these opportunities, then they might become adults who struggle like this. Loose parts could have prevented this. Loose parts also promote language skills when children start to collaborate and engage in conversations with their classmates and teachers. They can also make connections between loose parts provided in an associated book. Including literacy with your loose parts is a great way to enhance literacy skills. Now, you would think that art would be the easiest subject for children to ease into with loose parts. Amazingly enough, in my experience, it's actually one of the slowest to progress. So when I first made the move to be play-based teaching, so I started years ago as a theme-based teacher. And so as I made the transition to play-based on the recommendation of a teaching partner, we had put out different colored pipe cleaners, and a student came out to us and said, "What are we supposed to make?" I responded, "Well, whatever you want to make." And she goes, "Yeah, but what am I supposed to make?" And again, "Whatever you want to make." This poor child got so frustrated that we wouldn't tell her what she was supposed to make. This was a huge indication to us that we absolutely needed to be play-based with loose parts, and we really needed to start putting our efforts into process over product. Art has a role in education of helping children become like themselves instead of more like everyone else. So a great way to help children develop who they're meant to be, not who we want them to be, is by making sure our loose parts are child-centered and not adult-directed. In adult-directed activities, the educator tells children what to do and when. Children are expected to create one way with only one expected outcome. Children's role is to be instructed and become the taker of information. Whereas if an activity is child-centered, children select and initiate their own activities. They are involved in hands-on 3-dimensional learning activities. They develop a sense of curiosity and problem-solving skills, and children are engaged in their learning. Child-centered programs will continue to grow a child's sense of engagement and expression. Moving from adult-directed to child-centered is a transition for both adults and children if it's not a common practice. So if you are moving towards more child-centered, give yourself some grace. It does take time to transition. So how do we as educators support the loose parts journey? Through play. Play in classroom design, and play is the most important part of your programming. I'm going to bring up Sally's definition again of what play is. Play is a set of behaviors that are freely chosen, personally directed, and intrinsically motivated. Our job is to support those behaviors and observe and be witness. Now, in the chat box, can anyone guess the number one mistake teachers make when children are learning? So I'm going to pull up the chat box. Well, there's some good ones. Intervening, correcting them, telling them how to play, interrupting, making comments, talking over, interrupting. I think you guys know your stuff. Interrupting, how to do it.
Carla, can I give you my big mistake?
Please.
Oh my goodness. This is so bad, but for me, my big mistake was just putting it out and not really inviting them, just expecting something to happen.
Oh, and I've been guilty of that 100% because
Guilty of it.
Why aren't they playing with it?
Yeah, or they're not playing with it maybe the way I intended. Now I've done in my head, I think I've done something wrong. Like I've not set them up.
Right. Like we feel like we need to be validated.
Exactly.
You know what? I think, you know what? You guys are awesome. I'm loving it.
Tons of things coming through here, Sally.
Yeah. And you know
so
what?
Great.
Most of you got it. It's interrupting. Interrupting is the number one mistake a teacher can make during play. We need to give children time to play and move through the stages of discovery, exploration, design, and implementation. Let their ideas come to reality. Give them the opportunity to make mistakes and problem solve. Play starts when an action starts. So this is from Tom Drummond, who does a great job of creating a visual on the general courses of events in play. I strongly encourage you to read his blog post on the stewardship of play as he goes into another aspect in a lot more depth. But he's broken down play into 3 general courses of events: action, intention, and refinement. So action is when a child first gets into play. They pick a few pieces, they start kind of putting them together. Then they move into intention, which is when a plan and a thought, an intention essentially emerges that focuses on the action. And a decision to make something starts to happen. So I'm going to build a house. I'm going to make a farmhouse. That seems to be what's in my head today. And then refinement is when they run into problems with one of their intentions. So the materials at hand start to create problems. Children have to start problem solving. They have to adapt their intention or change the idea as they run into problems, like their tower might be falling over, or, you know, one of the kids that isn't part of their play keeps stepping into their play, like their play area or their construction area. So if the problems are solved, the construction gradually starts to attract more people and becomes more embellished, elaborated, and essentially refined. This applies to all age groups. Children are most often interrupted at the intention stage, right before the going gets good. And even worse, and I know I've done it, we make them clean it up. So every day the children are going into action, an intention emerges, and then we knock them right back to the beginning. So we are preventing children from the opportunity to create problems and learn how to solve them. They are missing out on the problem to learn how to adapt and build resilience. Now, it's really important that we trust the process of loose parts. So as we are moving through the stages of play, we need to trust the children as much as trusting the process. If you are new to loose parts, it is very easy to feel discouraged because your students aren't producing these amazing innovative designs. But trust the process over the product. The ideas they're creating are innovative to them and where they are in their development. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it's stupid. So trust the process. So here's a little bit of my process journey. So this is an example of when my teaching partner and I first introduced loose parts into our block center. Projects were completed very quickly, basic explanations of what the children made. Now, don't get me wrong, it's impressive. You can tell they've used the foam pieces. Let me use my Starbucks cup. They've made little trees here. They've used the tree stump. But kind of look at the background and look at the area surrounding it and kind of how it's really messy. And there's not a lot of intention surrounding it. Whereas, as the months went on, same group of children, but their designs started to have purpose. And by the end of the school year, this is what they were creating. Note where each piece is placed. You can tell it's well thought out, and each piece has been placed with intention. Their play even extended into building famous buildings. This particular building is the White House and the Great Wall of China. I've also seen them build the Burj Khalifa beside the CN Tower. But most importantly, I want to note how symmetrical this building is. This, again, these were my students. This was not teacher directed. This was completely done with just these 2 children. And I, of course, came in and said, oh my gosh, look how symmetrical your tower or your buildings are. And we talked about symmetry, but it really is about trusting the process. This was a much more effective way to teach symmetry than if I had done this with a worksheet. And then here is another house design. So again, same children that built with those foam blocks, but this is months later. So now instead of a rectangle house, we now have a house with a hallway, a bedroom. This is the bathroom. I remember that clearly because they thought it was hilarious to be going pee in the classroom. And then this is their garage. So we have progressed from planning and action to more intentional refinement. So allowing the children to work their ways through. So here are 3 steps to successful loose parts. Start small. Introduce a few loose parts at a time in each area of the classroom, along with 1 invitation a day. The purpose of starting small is to not overwhelm your students. If they feel overwhelmed, then you will land up with a dumping situation rather than an innovative one. Think about size. Loose parts does not mean small pieces, especially if you have an infant or toddler. You want to be aware of choking hazards and anything that can go up the nose. And I really cannot stress that one enough. Pom-poms do not show up on x-rays. It was not my student, but I had a student in another classroom who stuck a pom-pom up his nose and it went undetected for weeks. They did not find it until it started to smell, and they had taken him to the doctor multiple times. And it wasn't until his nose started to smell that they found out that he had a pom-pom up his nose. So really, really be conscious of size when putting out loose parts. And also try and entertain as many senses as you can. Again, think texture, color, sound when choosing your pieces. And trust the process and think outside the box. More importantly, provide children the opportunities to think outside the box. Trust the process. You won't be sorry. And remember, children should be taught how to think, not what to think. So block play is a great starting point for open-ended, larger loose parts. But as children get more comfortable with loose parts in the classroom, you might want to start adding those smaller, developmentally appropriate pieces. Just don't make the same mistake I did. I was way too eager and I put this tray out. It was a disaster. I am type A to like the max, and all the children saw was a great thing to mix up into one giant container. And I would spend after school sorting out all the loose pieces again. And so start small, but don't start like this. I did find that individual containers were way more effective because the children were more intentional with which containers they pulled off the shelf. So my storage hacks are baskets, buckets, wooden containers. So these are all from the dollar store if you have a dollar store where you live. But my favorite is Bath and Body Works candle containers. Now, they are glass, so you have to be comfortable having glass in your classroom if you're going to go this route. But I've had glass in both my preschool and kindergarten programs. And again, you ease them in, you start small. But let me show you how to turn the candles into containers. So I'm going to use this one right here. I'm just going to stop my screen share for 1 second. So here is what was a Bath and Body Works candle. Burn the candle down, stick it in your freezer. Once it's frozen, you just take a knife and you crack it out, pour it out, clean it, take the label off, and you've got a really solid glass container, which is great because you can see everything in it. If you're not comfortable having it in your classroom, it's also great for holding anything on your desk. Oh, I see somebody say pickle jars. That's another good one. Oh. Okay, read the chat. There are some really good ideas coming in the chat there. So yeah, wow. I didn't know hot water would do it too. So that is awesome. So moving on to now play invitations. So you've set up the classroom and now it's about provoking and inviting the children to play with loose parts. Play invitations are a great way. So an invitation to play is a way of setting up a child's play session and inviting them in to new, different ways to trigger their interest and open new directions of play. So if you are just starting out, a play invitation is a great way to kind of introduce those smaller pieces before introducing them into a whole wall of buckets, containers. And if you want to use glass in your classroom, an invitation is a great way to introduce that because you can show the children how to use it. But you as the educator have no desired outcome or learning goal. You set out a few loose parts for children to explore. I know I've said it earlier, but I cannot stress it enough to not go too big too fast if the majority of your students aren't used to loose parts. You will feel defeated, just like Rio was saying about how she would just put the stuff out and then feel like she did something wrong. I've been there. I'm sure we're not the only two that have been there. So start small. So here is an example of 2 loose part invitations that I put out. So, and again, I've added my literacy here. And then this one was a really interesting one, the red cups. I was not expecting to have such elaborate towers, but it was really, really neat. Now, hopefully you are super eager to get to your programs and add more loose parts or introduce loose parts. A roadblock you might get though is getting admin, co-teachers, or parents to buy in. My advice, observation and documentation. Take photos, make sure you get consent, but document the learning that is taking place while loose parts are being used. So take this over here, take these nuts and bolts as an example. Look how tiny those pieces are. But this simple activity builds fine motor skills. It also works on focus and creativity. So one of the little boys in my program made a robot. This is a robot, and he could tell me all about this robot. And I made sure to document and share all the learning that was taking place. Do not assume that everyone knows the value in loose parts in play. At least not yet anyways. Share, and share some more. That is how you're going to get the buy-in. Designing your classroom to play a role of an active participant rather than a holding room is the last component of successful loose parts play. For those of us who've been in the field a while, you might remember a time, or you might still do it, when centers had restricted numbers. So what I mean by that is the dramatic center could only have 4 children at a time, or the block center could only have 6 children. If loose parts are materials that could be moved around the classroom and used in a variety of ways, the children should be granted the same luxury. Now, allowing materials to move freely from different areas of the classroom opens up a whole new level of learning and exploration. For example, allowing everyone to work collaboratively to build a bus out of blocks and go on a trip. There's so much learning that can happen just from a simple behavior that restricting the number of children in the center would have deprived them of. Also, allowing things like Play-Doh to make its way to a dramatic center, however nerve-wracking that might be, especially if your dramatic center has carpet, it allows for collaboration of ideas and a completion of a plan. It also lets the children know you trust them. So here's an example of what happened one day when I put a cheese grater in my Play-Doh center. I didn't know what was going to happen. I just sat back and watched. The student took the plates from the dramatic center and brought them over to the art table and made these amazing looking desserts. And then she took them back to the dramatic center and they were able to role play this whole bakery cake, bakery and baker situation. So if I had stopped her from doing that and taking things out of dramatic and going back to the dramatic center with the Play-Doh, I would have stopped so much learning from happening. My gosh, my mind just went. This is the kind of thought process that wouldn't have been completed. Now, this is a great article, or there is a great article by an architect named Simon Nicholson called How Not to Cheat Children, The Theory of Loose Parts. I highly recommend reading this article in full, but I wanted to touch on one line in particular. The theory of loose parts says quite simply the following. In any environment, both the degree of ineffectiveness and creativity and the possibility of discovery are directly proportional to the number and kind of variables in it. I interpret this as the more loose parts you have in your classroom environment, the more learning opportunities you have created in your program. I think back to the pictures I shared earlier of the block play, where the children inadvertently created a building that was completely symmetrical. If I had just put out the farmhouse, that never would have happened. To recap, loose parts are any material that allows for open-ended interpretation and play. Loose parts are materials that can be moved around the classroom and used in a variety of ways. So as you head back to your programs, remember, start small, observe, and trust the process. Loose parts play is a beautiful development to watch unfold. Thank you for joining me on allowing me to share my passion of loose parts with you today. I would love to connect with everybody here. Feel free to follow me on Instagram or Facebook at EL Foundations. You can visit my website, or you can find me on the Everything ECE podcast. Also, there is a free download for anybody who attended today's webinar at elfoundations.com/looseparts. And you can download, it's a 19-page document with loose parts ideas that can help you get started on your loose parts journey. So I would like to open the floor up to Ria or Q&A.
100%. Carla, that was amazing. I think first of all, watching the chat, folks, I love all the great ideas that were coming through the chat. You'd even said it yourself, like some of the things that were happening, absolutely amazing. I love it. As well, to tie back just for a moment, because I think you had mentioned like getting buy-in from other coworkers, from directors as well. I think part of that too is like getting a bit of buy-in from parents as well. And I wanted to just tie back to how in Hi Mama, we want you to be able to do things like this. We want you to be able to share photos, share pictures with families and be able to do so. Because I think that's a huge piece, is being able to show something, especially like you said, take those pictures. It's a huge, huge piece. And just take some time to do so. I know that it's not an easy transition to go into loose parts, that's for sure. So
no, and what's great is the Hi Mama app can do it in live action. So you're not just saying, you're not just showing the final product. You're not just saying, oh, hey, he made a robot today. And they're like, oh, okay, great. We got to go. Right? Like,
exactly.
Thanks so much. See you later. Whereas, mom's scrolling at her desk during school and she's like, oh my gosh, look at all like what's happening at school today. He's working on his fine motor skills. He never sits that long at home, which is the response I had with the little, the screws. Like, they're like, they never sit that long. I'm like, he was there for like an hour.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, Carla, let's jump into Q&A.
Yeah.
So, well, folks, I'm going to launch a quick poll here. So feel free, take a minute or two just to get that poll in. A couple of great questions here for you. I know it will pop up in just a sec, but let's start with Q&A. Let me pull up my questions here. Of course, this is when I've lost all my questions. Kaya's like, hey, they're right here.
So I can see them. And
there's many coming.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's start here. This is a twofold question for you. So invitations to play, we know you started, you talked a little bit about this, but maybe could you give us an example for someone who is maybe just starting with it and they're just getting going, and maybe someone who's been in loose parts for a little while and they're looking for, so maybe they're a little advanced. What was some great examples you might be able to share with us?
Yeah, so absolutely. So I kind of like to take a page out of the Montessori when I'm introducing loose parts, and I like to set it out on a mat. Just when I'm first introducing it. And depending if you want it on the floor or at a table, I've taken big wooden blocks and put it right in the middle of my carpet. And I've picked 1 or 2 loose parts and I've put them in a basket beside. So I have not told the children what to make, or how to use it. I've put it out there. I might hint and be like, oh my gosh, did you see that there are glass beads in the basket? And that's all I'll say. And if they want it, great. And it's important to try and follow the children's interests. So some children over here in Canada will start going to pumpkin patches with their families on the weekend. So I generally naturally see an increase in interest in pumpkins, interest in apple picking, seeds. So I might want to, put out a basket of pumpkin seeds and see what happens. So that might, so that's like a nice way to start small, and really small is key, because don't be me and spend an hour trying to put all those loose pieces back in the tray. If you're type A, it's really distressing. There's no other way to put it. But if you are more advanced, I don't know if you guys can see, there's my loose part shelf. When I quit teaching, I took it right off the wall and brought it home with me.
I love it.
I was like, I'm not leaving this here. I was like, I need this in my life. Is go to the wall. If you don't have any nut allergies in your center, Ferrero Rocher containers are fantastic for holding loose parts. And they're clear. So the clearer the container, the better, because it helps with that intention. So have a whole wall of loose parts where it's easy for them to see what goes where, so they can pull out what they're needed, rather than dumping everything and then trying to figure it out. Help them along getting to that intention and then refinement stage.
I love it. Carla, it's talking a little bit about containers, actually. And I wanted to go back because you had mentioned the glass thing. So obviously we're going to go into, it's a question a little bit more about maybe some hazards to avoid, but just for those folks who are a little maybe apprehensive about glass. I also used to have some glass in my classroom as well. I actually had these very large jars, and I used to sit them on top of my art shelf. And what I put in them typically was something soft. So actually, like our big pom-poms, for example.
Yes.
Any pipe cleaners, anything that was large. They were, we're talking like a fairly big jug.
Yeah.
And sometimes even sensory materials. Like I had one full of sand, one full of pine cones. And what I did though is I specifically placed this shelf against a wall so that it wasn't in the way of getting knocked over. It was less likely.
Yes.
And the kids, I would bring them down to their level. If I wanted them to use them or access it, it got down. It was not like, let's step on a chair and get there. But also as well, be conscious of your age. Obviously maybe
so important. Like that pom-pom situation is perfect example, because like beads, beads we know are a choking hazard. Pom-poms, this pom-pom was not even that small, and this kid got it up there. But this is the same kid who 3 days later at lunch shoved a pea up his nose.
We all have, I'm sure there's at least one in every center that every educator has been by. Yeah. What are maybe two or three, if you have them, choking hazards or nose stuffing hazards in this case, to avoid or to be conscious of, especially around that 3 area?
Yeah, beads, even sticks. Sticks don't go up your nose this way. They certainly go up your nose this way.
Yeah.
So again, part of it is about, if you have children, especially if you have a big classroom of 24 children, those are the kinds of things you want to just introduce and say, we've got sticks in the classroom now. And I probably should have mentioned that in the presentation, is introduce it. Same thing with the glass. This is a glass container. What do we know about glass? Because children have glass at home. They know that glass breaks. So just again, having a conversation and talking about that trust piece with the children. I see someone put in the chat, beans. Yes, beans are a big one. I was the kid that shoved a bean in her ear as a child. So yes, beans are definitely something to be conscious about. Again, if they can choke on it, it can go up their nose. You really want to just be really, really conscious. I saw somebody ask 2 loose parts for an infant room.
Yep. That was where I was going next. You're on top of this.
Perfect. Okay. Water bottles, big, plastic water bottles. And again, it's a great thing to ask parents to donate, because some parents, and most of us are moving towards reusable, but some families still have the Gatorade bottles. So those are great ones. Really, really wash it, especially during COVID. You have to be so careful, pay attention to your center's rules. Right? You might not be bringing in outside materials right now. And if you are, make sure that you're really, really cleaning them, right? But big water bottles, the bigger blocks are great. Ice cubes are another good one. And you want to put that out on a tray, because obviously it melts, but ice cubes are a great loose part.
Yeah. 100%. And then you're getting, like you said, the senses, you're getting different senses through that, different
Exactly.
textures.
And with infants, it's hard to avoiding the touch one or the taste one. So at least with an ice cube, it's safe.
Exactly. You're not entering a world of craziness as much, maybe, but
as much. Yeah. Yes, it takes a special person to be an infant teacher. I got to tell you.
I agree 100%. My hat's off to all you infant toddlers for me. Toddler for me was like, it was a bit of a line, but anyways, okay. I wanted to talk about, there's a good question here about block play and, getting the children to is it something for you? Did you leave everything out? Did you bring it, put it all away at the end of the day? Did you always have all of your loose parts out? Maybe paint us that picture.
So what a great question, because I was really, really fortunate that my classroom was not used for before or after school.
Okay.
So I was able to leave my block play up all week. So I cut a deal with our custodian. And I said, don't worry about the vacuuming. Like I'll do around, I'll make sure the carpet's clean around the blocks. I just don't want you to accidentally knock it over and feel bad about it. So I said, the kids and I will take care of that. So the block play would stay up all week. The children and I had a conversation about why it had to go down on the weekends, so that they also knew that it was coming to an end. But I always felt so guilty that on a Monday or a Tuesday, I was like, okay, tidy it up. And then they were that's when I had my most behaviors, right? And you look at the ABCs of behaviors. What was my antecedent, right? What was my trigger for that meltdown? Well, it's because they just worked so hard and I've made them knock it down, and then I'll make them knock it down again tomorrow. So that was a huge behavior saver for me. Like that knocked out that behavior. Yep. I just saw somebody have a really good idea. They took a picture first if they had to be taken down. And that's the reality, right? Some of us have to take it down at the end of the day. And there was a part 2 to that question. Oh, my loose parts were out all year. So I had a loose parts shelf. So I had big buckets with all larger loose parts. Then I had the smaller shelf with smaller loose parts. And then I had loose parts in my dramatic center, loose parts in my art center. And they stayed out all year round.
I love it. Our loose parts used to stay out all year round as well. And very similar. I would, if it was something, sometimes I got them to build it on a board if they thought they might want to continue building it. Yes. And if I could, we'd move it. That's also another one. And then, Lucinda, taking a picture is a great one. Yeah. Carla, one last question before we jump into wrap up. Any good examples of loose parts in the art section? I loved art and loose parts. It was hard sometimes though.
So leaves, so my head's in fall, right? So I've got to think about, for all of you that are not heading into cold. So the glass beads were great. I wish I had done a picture of it, is putting out a picture frame and then having containers of loose parts in the center of your table, and then having loose parts, and the children could make a loose part picture. So small stones, small beads, sticks, even adding Play-Doh, so that they could manipulate inside. I've seen it, I've never done this one, but having a outline of something on white paper on the table, and the children fill it in with loose parts. And that's been really neat with tree cookies. Leaves are a great one for that. So I love it in the art center. And if you haven't done it, I strongly recommend adding cheese graters to your Play-Doh table. That was one of the best things I ever added.
I love it. It's something I actually never thought of whatsoever. We used to do strainers in our water tables, but never thought to add a cheese grater to my Play-Doh section. So Carla, it has been an absolute pleasure. This hour has flown by in so many great ways. I think we're going to have to do part 2. So for folks who, if you want to connect with Carla, we are going to share out all of her links that she mentioned today. So you will be able to get all of that. But Carla, any last words, happy thoughts, anything you want to leave the crew with today before we wrap up?
Just thank you for all of you that are still in the field. I have not been in the field for a couple of years, and I cannot imagine that this year and a half has been easy. So thank you for sticking with it and doing your children such a service, and being here shows that you really care about bringing play to your students. So that's it. And thank you for having me on.
Such a pleasure. Such a pleasure having you on, Carla. Thank you. Thank you so much. Folks, I'm going to end the poll. So thank you to everyone who did have a chance to fill that out. Thank you so, so much. We talked about, how you're currently planning your activities and your lesson plans, and tons of you answered that you're, using pen and paper, you're doing spreadsheets, those sorts of things. So if you'd like to chat with us, we'd love to chat with you. Let's jump into wrap up though. Folks, I mentioned you'll be getting all of Carla's links and the article she talked about, connecting with her. If we didn't get to questions, you'll be able to connect with her through Instagram, Facebook. If you want to check out her website, we'll have all of that out in the show notes for you by early next week. So please do keep an eye out for that in your inbox. Next week, I am very excited. We're going to be welcoming back Kenan Hutchinson. He was on way back in March, and we're super excited to welcome him back and talk a little bit more about some hands-on learning. What a great tie-in to today and tie into next week. So next week, same time, Thursday, September 30th at 2 p.m. Registration will be going out by early next week as well. So once again, just keep your eyes out for that. But Kaya, I think I'm handing it over to you.
Yeah, what a fantastic, inspiring session. Just wanted to say thank you so much to Carla. I'm so happy I found you on social media. You are such a fantastic wealth of knowledge, especially when it comes to loose parts. Similar to Ria, I dabbled in it as well when I was in the classroom, and the kids absolutely loved it. So my advice from educator to educator, just go and do it. Like if you're scared or you're not sure your director is going to allow it, just try it. Sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. That's my motto. So if you missed the announcement earlier in the webinar, we are running a contest right now on social media. So head over to our Instagram page. You'll see the link right there in the chat. You can win one of these. If you own one of these from a conference, please let me know. I want to know who in our webinar still owns one of these. I know we haven't been to conferences since 2019, but they're going to make a comeback. So we want to give our amazing Hi Mama customers and family members and our amazing community one of these. So hop on over to Instagram and enter to win a whole swag pack.
That's super exciting. I love it. I love it. I love it. Folks as well, within your show notes, you will be getting access. I know a couple of people had asked access to the slides. You will be getting access to a certificate will be sent out. So if you were in the live session today, please keep an eye on your inbox over the next coming days. You will get a certificate to you. And if you're accessing the download, it will be there as a template for you as well. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Please do take some time, follow us. Kaya said it, get on Instagram there, folks, and you can definitely win some swag. Follow us on in our social media through Facebook, join our Circle Time group as well. Take a listen to our podcast if you like the preschool podcast. We'd love to, you can find that wherever you like, and we'd love to have you listening to some of the great content that's been coming out. All right, folks, enjoy the rest of your day. Ms. Kaya, thank you as always. And Carla, thank you again for such a wonderful session. But everyone, please do stay healthy, stay happy, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.